Hi everyone, it's about 6:30 on Wednesday and this is your closing comment for Wednesday the 16th of September and it's video number 427. And a gentle reminder, if you like the work, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Okay, so this morning started off okay. Retail sales were a little bit light. They came in at plus 0.6% versus 1% expected. But business inventories a little later in the morning came in at plus 0.1%. Nothing overwhelming, but it was down 1.1% in July. And then the NAHB housing index came in at 83 versus 78, and that 83 was an all-time new high. That got the market off on a reasonable rally, but you have to remember it was a Fed day, and on Fed days, really anything could happen. The market was actually up near the highs when Chairman Powell started to speak, and that was up about 370. And from 245 to the close, we managed to have two legs down, and the Dow closed up only 37. What was of interest was that the transports made a new all-time high finally. And the Russell was up 1471, which was pretty strong considering the S&P was down 15, and the Nasdaq, which had been up, finished down 139. On the individual stocks, we had FedEx, which I'm sure you know by now, was a big piece of that new high in the transports. It closed at 250.30, and that was up 1363 or 5.8% on the back of the earnings that came out last night after the close. Another one that came out after the close was Adobe, and it actually went the other way. Last night on the news, it traded as high as 522. And today it finished 476, down 2167, which was 4.4%. But that's a $46 change from where it traded last night to where it closed today. And it's just a matter of, their numbers were great. It's just a matter of expectations and the fact that the stock had run up before. Facebook has gotten a notification from the FTC, and they are investigating it, as well as a bunch of celebrities actually boycotting Facebook. So I can't imagine if the biggest advertisers didn't bother Facebook pulling their stuff. Kim Kardashian West and Sacha Baron Jones is not going to affect it, but the stock did close at 263.52, and that was down 8.9%. Oh, pardon me, 890, 3.3%. There was some good news for GE, who came out today and said that they expect to be cash flow positive in the second half of this year. So between now and the end of the year, I'm not sure when their fiscal year is, but the stock closed 6 3/4, up 65 cents or 10.7%. What would the day be without some mention of NIKOLA? It has a bunch of problems that I mentioned this morning with D.O.J and the AG from New York joining the SEC in an inquiry about whether or not they've misrepresented themselves. But the stock actually had a little bounce today. It got down to 30 1/4 and had a high of 34.92, and the close was kind of towards the top end. 33.34, up 51 cents. Not a great day, 1.5%, but nonetheless, it seems to have stopped the downside action. Two big IPOs, both software. Frog, came at 44 after being increased several times. The stock opened at 71, traded as high as 77, and finished the day at 64.33. There's no specific comparison because it didn't exist, but that's about a 46% gain from where the stock was priced. And the big one, Snowflake, which is a cloud-based software company also, it had its price and number of shares raised 3 times, and it was a particularly high priced dollar per share deal at 120. It opened at 240. I saw it trading around 280. It sold off a bit, but managed to close 253.93, and that was 133% up from the offering. The chart on the screen is the US dollar index, and it is just trying like crazy to make some upward movement and grab a little bit of momentum. It hasn't been able to, but it also hasn't been able to break down. If you look at this chart on a little longer term basis, you'll see that since we broke to the downside, every time we've had a consolidation, we've broken lower. And here, and here. We seem to be trying to hold in this 93 area. And frankly, I just can't make a judgment about which way it's actually going to go. But if the bonds get a little bit weaker and rates go up, this generally goes with it. It's not a day for day interest rates up, US dollar up, but the overall market does act on that in that way. Now, I want you to remember what you see right here, because I'm going to show you another chart that has a similar pattern, but it's on the opposite end. That one was at a low. This one is at a high, but the formation is basically the same, and it is running the same right here too. I mean, this is really trying to move to the upside. It did make a slightly higher high today than it did yesterday, than it did the day before, or the day before that. The close here is 1964.30, and today's close here was 1970.5. We still have, these closes in here that are concerning to me, in the 1978, 1979 area. But, the longer it goes sideways, the bigger the base, the better the move. So that's where we are there. Bitcoin was up 200, and oil looked really good today. It was up about 4%, I believe. We'll know in a second. And I'm assuming that part of this is the storm, and part of it is the fact that we're just sitting on top of this 100-day moving average. I mean, it's very obvious. But I'm going to guess that, if we get up into the $43.5 area, I'll be looking at puts on the USO or the UCO. But it's, made a nice little consolidation, stopped going down, and it's trying. Okay, everyone, have a good evening. I'll be back first thing in the morning for my pre-opening comment. Have a good evening, and don't forget to subscribe.